Originalnij text. Osinit sej periklad. Vas vidguk dopamos pokrazati Google perikladak. B. Regressive Tendencies. The Beginning B. I by Lil Jenny I. B. Chapter 4. Only as old as you feel B. 23 minutes after the hour, and in other news, has the legendary fountain of youth been found? Emails that were supposedly accidentally sent from the R&D division of Plainfield Pharmaceuticals have been forwarded around the internet. Now there's no way to know whether they're the real deal or a well-constructed hoax, but they talk about laboratory tests of water from a spring in the Amazon rainforest that causes a reversal of the aging process, and they even call it FOY water. Plainfield has yet to respond to our requests for interviews. They're getting more creative all the time on the internet, aren't they, Carol? Heh. Now over to Max Connolly and the sports report. The TV had caught Cammie's attention briefly as she waited at the airport terminal. She had refused to allow Plainfield to send anybody with her on the flight home, but of course the airline employees wouldn't believe she was 16, so they were keeping a close eye on her and wouldn't let her out of their sight. So she had to wait in the arrivals area for Aunt Nadine, still wearing the stupid airline baseball cap they'd made her wear the entire flight. At least she'd kept them from pinning one of those airline wings pins on her. "Cammie," she heard a familiar voice say from across the room. "Cammie, is that you?" That was definitely Aunt Nadine's voice, and Cammie stood up on her chair to spot her amid the milling crowd. She waved, and her aunt made her way over. "Oh, careful," said the airline representative, suddenly noticing that Cammie was standing on her chair, which still didn't make her much taller. "Watch out, honey, you might fall," she said. "Do you see somebody you know?" "Yes, my aunt is here to pick me up," Cammie said. "She's the traumatized-looking lady in the blue dress." Indeed, Aunt Nadine was here to pick her up, and indeed, she looked traumatized, her eyes wide with disbelief at what they were seeing. "Cammie, I still can't believe it. You're a baby." Physically, she looked a lot like Cammie due to family resemblance, with the white and gray fur and the family's trademark curled tail, but the hair on her head was dark brown and cascaded in waves to her shoulders, which was a new style for her. She must have gotten it done while Cammie was away. "I'm not a baby, Aunt Nadine, I'm." Cammie began, but the airline employee was asking her aunt for her identification, and she was taking her driver's license out of her purse. Then before Cammie knew it, Aunt Nadine had picked her up. "I can't believe it. You're so light," she said, holding Cammie up to look at her. "It is really you, though, isn't it?" "Yes, Aunt Nadine. Same me, new compact size." "Hey, whoa." Cammie was taken by surprise when her aunt shifted her to a carrying position and just started walking. FYI, I can still walk. "Let's save the arguments until we get out of the airport," her aunt said. "It's just going to be faster and safer to carry you." Cammie couldn't really argue with that. The airport was packed, her legs were short now, and the sooner they were out of there, the better. "Now, let's get your things. And we'll drive you home, okay?" Aunt Nadine finally carried Cammie to her car and opened the back door. Cammie didn't know why she was surprised to see a cub seat in the back. She sighed audibly. "Heavy sigh," her aunt commented. "What's wrong? Cub seat, I'm 16, etc. But I know, you don't want trouble with the cops. I'm almost but not quite used to that by now." "Well, the company sent me that, so I'm using it," said Aunt Nadine, buckling Cammie in. "It's to protect you, really. The seat belts won't help you much if there's an accident, at your age, I mean, size. I'm sure it's safer," said Cammie, "but it's just not my style." "Well, it's only until we get home. Then we'll get you settled back into your room. We might have to change some things around the house if you're going to be so little. But the company sent a lot of things that should help." "Oh, great," said Cammie, remembering her rainbowy, unicorny hospital room. Aunt Nadine carried her from the car to the house, too, then opened the door, gave her backpack and set her down inside, going back out to start carrying in the bags. Cammie did her part, and held the door open for her. "Oh," said her aunt. "Thank you." She sounded surprised. Once all the bags were inside, Aunt Nadine said, "Okay, now, Cammie, while I was carrying you I couldn't help noticing that they've got you in, well, diapers." They had indeed put a diaper on Cammie at the hospital for the trip. Well, usually I don't need those in the daytime, but they did that because it's hard to use the bathroom on the plane, Cammy began. Her aunt sighed, though it sounded like a sigh of relief. Oh, good, well at least it's only at night, she said. The fact is, Cammy, that you came to stay here when you were 7. I really don't know anything about taking care of babies, I mean, not that you're one. That is kind of my point, said Cammy. But anyway, I don't know anything about changing diapers. I don't think it's good for you to stay in that wet one, though. You have no idea how happy I'd be to get out of it. Okay, well, let's go up to your room and take care of it, then, said Aunt Nadine. Oh, stairs. It might just be faster if I carried you up there. She scooped Cammy up again and carried her up. Cammy thought about protesting, but she hadn't tried climbing stairs since the jungle, and this probably was the fastest way up. When they got to Cammy's room, she half expected it to be redecorated with rainbows and unicorns, but no, it was almost the same as when she'd left, only. What's with all the boxes? Her room had a white carpet and faintly rose-colored paint on the walls, which were decorated with posters, mostly of movies and rock bands. The furniture was wooden, with a red cedar finish. It had been brought over from her parents' house, long ago. But now there were several large cardboard boxes in her room, stacked in a corner. Well, Plainfield sent some supplies, and I put some of them in here. I mean, things like these have to go somewhere you'll be able to get at them if you need them. Aunt Nadine set Cammy down, opened a box, and pulled out a container of baby wipes. I'm guessing, but these might be useful, she said. And do you have some underwear, or is that packed? Pack some in here, said Cammy, lifting her backpack. Where does the, diaper go? Aunt Nadine opened Cammy's closet door, revealing her stylish and currently unwearable wardrobe, and what was obviously a diaper pail on the floor. The company sent this too. I guess. I'll empty that when I take out the rest of the trash. This is all so new. She shook her head, disbelievingly, then said, well, I'll let you change. She left and closed the door. Awkward. This was going to be tough for both of them to adjust to, thought Cammy as she opened her backpack. Then she happened to see her car keys inside. At first, she gasped, that's right, she had just gotten a car a few months ago, a car she hadn't been able to drive since starting her internship. Then she sighed. That car was inaccessible to her for now, there was no way she'd be able to reach the pedals or see over the dashboard. She frowned. Well, maybe the company would find a way to fix her size problem soon. She cleaned up and changed into normal underwear. Then she went to leave the room, but realized that the door was fully closed. Standing on her tiptoes, she was barely able to touch the doorknob, but turning it was out of the question. Oh, great, she said. Aunt Nadine, she yelled, but there was no answer. She knocked and knocked on the door. She was starting to feel a little worried, because she was starting to think she might have to go to the bathroom. But just as she was going to find something to stand on to reach the doorknob, the door finally opened. Sorry about that, Cammy, said her aunt, who had carried some of Cammy's luggage up the stairs. You know I have the door closing habit. I'll have to be more careful about that. It's okay, but I have to go to the bathroom, she said. Oh, well, they sent a step stool and a booster seat thing, but I'll have to get those out. Aunt Nadine said. I put them in the bathroom, though. She went into the bathroom and started taking them out of their boxes. Auntie, said Cammy, squirming uncomfortably. AAA. Here, I'll just put this booster seat thing on and lift you up. Aunt Nadine picked Cammy up and set her down on top of the seat. Then she got the step stool out, set it under Cammy's feet, and left, only shutting the door most of the way this time. Cammy finished, climbed down, moved the step stool to the sink, and washed her paws. That was close. I'm done, she said. Sorry about that. I'm sorry too, said Aunt Nadine. I guess we've both got a lot to adjust to. I just hope that company finds a way to turn you back to normal. Dash 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 dash. There were indeed adjustments. Cammy had trouble reaching the table at dinner time, so Aunt Nadine got out a booster seat that Plainfield had thoughtfully sent her. Dinner was spaghetti, but Cammy was having some trouble with it. They'd had other shapes of pasta on the kids' menu at the hospital, but not spaghetti for some reason. She just had lots of trouble getting it to stay on the fork, but that was enough to cause it to fall onto her clothes, the table, or her plate, causing her aunt's famously watery meat sauce to splash and make even more of a mess. You're getting it all over the place. Do you need some help? Aunt Nadine asked. No, I got this, said Cammy, who by this time had spaghetti sauce splotches on her shirt and fur. She was concentrating intently on twirling the spaghetti around her fork. Then suddenly, the fork slipped and fell over, splashing sauce onto Cammy's face. This is frustrating, she said. I can cut it up for you, her aunt suggested. No, thanks, really, I can do this, said Cammy, rescuing the fork and getting sauce on her paws in the process. I suppose we could always tell everybody you're a fox or a red panda, said Aunt Nadine. Lightly. Thought I was the family comedian, Cammy said, getting most of this forkful of spaghetti into her mouth. Unfortunately, one strand fell on her shirt. RRRRRGH. Okay, that's it, I'm doing it, said Aunt Nadine, who stood up and proceeded to cut the spaghetti on Cammy's plate into small pieces with her fork and knife. It wasn't as if Cammy could stop her. Cammy barely noticed herself picking up the end of the strand on her shirt, putting it in her mouth, and slurping it in. When her aunt was done cutting the spaghetti up, Cammy found eating her dinner a lot easier. There, said Aunt Nadine, now we won't be here from now until bedtime. Thanks, probably, said Cammy, seasoning her spaghetti with a big dash of sullen. After dinner, Aunt Nadine said, Cammy, you're covered in spaghetti sauce, maybe you should just take a bath. Cammy had actually been thinking the same thought, but that's probably a good idea, but I can do it. Did it every morning at the hospital. Well, head upstairs and start getting ready, and I'll clean up here. Cammy had found that she was able to negotiate the stairs, though with some difficulty. It was easier on all fours. She put her clothes in the laundry hamper and new problem. One single knob that you had to pull out to turn the water on, and it was up really high. She'd used it time and again in the past, but that was back when she was a teenager. Well, she was still a teenager, just a short one, right? Right. Anyway, she could still do this. She'd just stand on the side of the tub and reach it from there. She climbed up onto the side of the tub and slowly stood up. Whoa, her knees were wobbly. Was it supposed to feel like she was walking a circus tightrope? She reached carefully over toward the control knob, and her feet slipped off the smooth porcelain. Holy, Cammy, what are you doing? Came her aunt's words from somewhere behind her, but time was moving in slow motion as Cammy grabbed for anything, and she ended up dangling from the control knob by both paws, gripping the water spout between her knees. Gotcha, said Aunt Nadine, lifting Cammy up and setting her down in the tub. You've got to be careful. Are you okay? Yeah, I was just trying to turn the water on, and I slipped. Well, maybe I should do that from now on, Aunt Nadine said, turning the water on easily. It's not made for kids your size. I'm not a kid, Cammy protested. Whatever you say, said Aunt Nadine. Cammy insisted on washing herself, but she had to keep calling her aunt back in to fetch her the soap, washcloth, shampoo, and anything else that was on shelves or ledges that were now out of reach, and then afterwards she needed help getting out of the tub and getting a towel down to dry off. Now, let's see what you have for pajamas, Aunt Nadine said, going into Cammy's room to rummage through the boxes and suitcases of children's clothes that some unknown executive assistant at the company had bought for Cammy. Oh, these are adorable, she said, which seriously worried Cammy. Cammy followed her in and saw her holding up a white one-piece sleeper with feet that Cammy had been telling herself she'd never wear in 1,000 years. But before Cammy could protest, her aunt changed the subject, asking, oh, and Cammy, didn't you say you still had problems at night? Well, Cammy stammered, I do usually have to wear, yeah. Well, here are some of these training panty things, said Aunt Nadine, which should help. Some, at least. Or would you prefer the diapers? No, those are great. They should be fine. Cammy didn't actually know whether they'd work or not, as she'd only had the diapers at the hospital, but she was hoping for the best. She took a pair of the training pants and stepped into them, threading her tail through their tail cutout. Great, they were even printed with pastel ABC blocks. She looked up, and her aunt was holding up the adorable sleeper. Cammy sighed, and her aunt helped her into it, zipping it up in front when she was done. Cammy looked at herself in the mirror on the wall. The white sleeper had little pastel paw prints all over it. "Oh, you look adorable," said Aunt Nadine with a smile. "Yeah," Cammy said, with no enthusiasm whatsoever. "Adorable. Well, I don't know if you're tired or not, but what time did you usually go to bed in the hospital?" "Well, it varied, I guess, usually 9 or 10, Cammy said. This was a bit of a fib. She'd usually started drifting off after about 8 o'clock and gone to bed then, though on more than one occasion she'd fallen asleep completely and awakened in the morning in bed, thanks to Steph. "It's not even 8 yet. What do you want to do?" "I think I'll just, hang out in my room, if that's okay." "Sure, just let me know if you need anything," said Aunt Nadine, who left, leaving the door slightly ajar. Cammy looked at her desk, with her computer on it. If she climbed up onto her chair, she'd still have to stand up to reach the keyboard, and it would still be uncomfortable to look at the screen. No, checking her email and surfing the internet would have to wait. So she sat down on her bed, although it would be more accurate to say that she climbed up onto her bed, next to her backpack. She could still see herself in the mirror. These pajamas were very comfortable, but that wasn't the point. The point was that she was 16 and didn't want to look like a toddler. There wasn't much choice about that, though. However, at least she could act like a teenager. She got out her phone and tried texting Penelope. She got an answer. She told Penelope she was back home, and Penelope wanted to come see her, which Cammy obviously didn't think was a good idea, so she said she was really tired after the flight. They caught up on the latest news. But Cammy left out one little detail, very little. Her being tired wasn't a complete fib. She was quickly getting sleepy. So next time Aunt Nadine came up to check on her, Cammy texted that she was getting tired, and Penelope texted back, "Night." Cammy got ready for bed, and her aunt tucked her in. "Good night, Cammy," said Aunt Nadine. "I hope they can cure you. I really don't know how to take care of you like this, but I promise I'll try." "That's all I can promise." "Well, we'll see," said Cammy. "I hope they can figure out how to fix this soon too." Night, Aunt Nadine. Cammy dropped off to sleep fairly quickly. But hours later, she abruptly awoke in the middle of the night with the world reeling around her. She was falling. And now she was all tangled up in her sheets and blankets and couldn't move. She hadn't intended to shout, but she realized that she had. The light came on, and Aunt Nadine's voice said, "Oh no, Cammy, you fell out of bed. Are you okay?" Okay was a relative thing. "Well, I'm not hurt, but a little help. I'm stuck." "What happened?" asked Aunt Nadine as she untangled Cammy and put her back into bed. "I'm not sure. I think I rolled over, and then there was no over to roll to," Cammy said. "Well, at least you didn't hit your head or something. Did this happen at the hospital at all?" her aunt asked. "No, well, it couldn't, 'cause the hospital bed had side rails," explained Cammy. Aunt Nadine thought and said, "Well, your bed obviously doesn't. Try to be careful, okay?" Yeah, Cammy tried to stay in the exact middle of the bed for the rest of the night. Things actually went pretty well for the next few days, as far as Cammy could tell. She usually woke up pretty early and wanted to get a bath, but she had to wait for Aunt Nadine to turn the water on. She wanted to have breakfast, but she had to wait for her aunt to lift her up into her booster seat. She wanted to help around the house, really, but there wasn't a lot she could do now. That didn't stop her from trying, though, leading to a fall from the kitchen countertop when she tried to put the dishes away and a trash spill when she tried to empty the kitchen trash can. She was okay at folding laundry on laundry day, though. "Okay, I've got this stack done," she said, sitting on the living room couch next to a folded stack of hand towels and was